Like Brianna said, I, I am a mom of four, and a school teacher by trade. I'm actually not teaching anymore, which is part of my Plexus story. And yeah, my husband coaches college ball, so we are on the move a lot, and I am pretty much primary parent most of the time. So for those of you out there that are like, I'm so busy. How do you fit this in? What do you do? I was asked to share about like just sort of the basics of what I do and how I run my team and how we've gotten to where we are now. And so I'm just going to share with you like sort of how I fit it in, what I do, and what sort of takes precedent in my day to day with my business. And so I think it's kind of important for you also to be able to hear a little bit of my timeline, like just so that you kind of know where I'm coming from, in Plexus and sort of, you know, the time it took us to get here. So I started just as a new mom. Again, I had my third baby girl, and I was still teaching at the time. And I was just like, man, I don't feel like me. I'm kind of a mess. I kind of am like not able to keep up with the things. And started the products and was just like, we're going to see what happens. And I truly just fell in love with them very, very quickly. And because it was not like anything else I had tried, like it was just like, gosh, this is so simple. Like I can do this every day and I can be consistent because I didn't have time for a lot of other things with a newborn and two toddlers and teaching, and doing all the household things, like most of everything alone. I'm like, this is so simple. I can take some vitamins in the morning and I could take some at night and I drink this pink drink that's delicious. And like, I can do this. And so I was super consistent, love my products, was feeling changes like very quickly. And then just continued like as my journey went on with most people, right? Like started noticing different things like, oh, wow, I didn't realize it was going to like take away migraines. And wow, like I can't believe how soft and smooth my skin is. Like I feel awesome. And so I started sharing, actually my sponsor, told me in June, keyword, she told me, she didn't ask me, to do an event. And she was like, hey, I do this for all of my customers. And so let's do an event for you. And you can kind of share, because she was checking in with me. Right. So like, she knew I was loving the products and, what I had going on. And she's like, hey, do you know some people like, we can share with a couple people and like, see what people think. And I, of course, was like, well, I'm a teacher. We're always sort of like looking to pick up some income somewhere. And I was like, well, it can't hurt, right? So I had a very small event on Facebook. She literally did the whole thing for me. I was like the worst host ever. And we were headed to Tahoe driving at the time, and she sort of ran it all. But from there, what happened was I had a teacher friend that I invited that was super interested in the products, but she was like, I really want these, but I can't afford them. So I want to do what Marissa just did and like share too. And so right off the bat, it was so crazy. I had no idea any of this was coming. And immediately like her and I just started sharing away, and we were having so much fun because we were like, wow, we didn't realize so many people love these products, and wow, we didn't realize that we were going to love them so much. And then sort of just, how it is when you start getting into something and you're meeting the people that you're working with, and the community was huge. Like we were like, wow, this is really cool. At the time we were living in Utah, I wasn't near family, and so I didn't realize how much I really craved that community, which is why I think also Plexus is so special. Like I have been a part of a different company before, like before Plexus, and I have just seen a lot of other things and been a part of other communities, and there's just really nothing like this. And so I remember when I first went to our first team call, like I was like crying because I was so excited and so happy. And I'm like, oh my gosh, all these people are going to think I'm crazy. But I was just really happy to be a part of something that was really cool and that I was feeling successful in, even though I had no idea what I was doing. And so very quickly, I joined in April, was taking the products for a little while. I went silver after that event in June. And then I didn't really start sharing like outside of that event at all. And so I just started like every now and then would pop up in my stories because I was already on social media and like kind of comfortable with getting in my stories and talking or like sharing different things. And I would literally like just like have my pink drink and mix it up and be like, I'm on, day 4, like, feeling great or whatever, and nothing fancy or anything, just sharing little bits about what I was doing in my life, because that's what I was comfortable with doing already on my social media. Like, let me share a little bit about my kids. Like, let me share a little bit about what I bought at Target in the dollar spot today, like whatever. I was sharing different things. And so I thought, well, I can throw that in. And then once I finally like got to a team call and learned a little bit more about like how I can do this more consistently, I started sharing more regularly. And then on July 4th, I remember I made my very first post, like actual plexus post. And I remember asking my sponsor, like, is this a good day? It's like a holiday. She's like, oh, it's a perfect day. Like, everybody's on social media on 4th of July or like any holiday, basically, everybody's posting something. She's like, this is a perfect day. And I was like, okay. So I threw up a post. And then it just very quickly got into 3-way messages. So like, this is just what I learned from my sponsor is doing an event. Because when you do an event, you not only are giving other people a chance to learn about the product, but for me, it was a huge belief builder for me because I was learning more about the product because I only knew triplex. Like I was brand new on the products, right? So I only knew triplex and I truthfully didn't even really understand how it worked yet. I just knew that I was feeling different. So it helped me to learn about the product, and it also helped me to learn about the opportunity. And it also helped me to hear other people's stories because I was brand new. I had no idea like other people on our team's stories with plexus and how it's blessed them. And I was like, oh my goodness, like I'll never forget. Jordan Roddenberry is one of my uplines, and she went live in that event and she shared about the business, obviously, like it's a huge part of her journey. And I remember thinking, goodness, she's a coach's wife and she's literally working from home. I think she was like painting a room at the time. She had like paint all over her. And I'm like, she's a very normal human person, like that is very successful in this work. And so it allowed me like, exactly, like it casted vision on like, wow, I could do this too. Like I can be just me and a normal person. And so, like not fancy, like not whatever, just like, an average woman that wants to do more for their life. And I was like, I can do that. Like, if she can do that, why can't I do that? So it just started like getting my wheels spinning a little bit. This is way before I even remember, this is the event that I had that I was hardly tuned into. But then once I saw that my friend was curious, I was like, I should go back and watch some of that stuff. I was not a good host. And so anyway, I learned from myself too on how to coach up people to be present in their events. But so then I threw up that post and I did 3-way messages with my sponsor. So the event and then following up with 3-way messages, and I really just learned. I didn't do a lot of talking. I did the connecting in the 3-way messages. And then I let my sponsor really take the lead. And I had her in a lot of 3-ways, often, and for even a couple months into sharing. And looking back, I'm like, man, I probably exhausted her. But at the same time, it helped me to really get good at how to lead the conversation, but also how to listen. Let the other person tell you their need so that you can sort of gear the information that you're going to give toward what they're looking for. And doing less of the plexus vomit, let me tell you everything. So it just really, really supported me. And even now, still in my business, if I have somebody that I bring on as a VIP, I will still put my sponsor in a 3-way just to introduce them, because I remember how much I loved being a part of and meeting the other women in the community, even if it's somebody that you think doesn't need that or whatever, don't prejudge. Somebody could have said the same thing about me. So So anyway, that to be said is I still use three ways. Like I don't necessarily go through the recruiting process with my sponsor anymore, but I will say, hey, like, Katie Burns is my sponsor, and I'll say, hey, I'm going to put you in connection with Katie. And just so that, like, if you ever have any questions or you can't get a hold of me or whatever, like, she is a great resource. Plus we're on two very different time zones. And so it's helpful when, how time zones work. So it's helpful to have them connected to somebody if they're trying to get a hold of me and it's, already midnight here and I'm sleeping. Katie's on the West Coast and she might be able to help them. So, I just like to connect people still with the community. And so then after that, we went senior silver in July 15th. So it was literally, remember I said I did my first post July 4th, then July 15th, we went senior silver. And remember I had the one girl that was also had her event and I was helping her rank up along with me. And then this is where it starts getting really wild. So I learned to help people by doing events. And so that's what we did with my new level one. We did events for her. And then literally every person that she signed up, we were doing events for them. And we were doing events for my people too. So we were like event crazy. But it was the most fun. Like I remember getting off of work and not even feeling exhausted, like was so excited to be able to hop on live and share my story. And I'm going to say, yes, I went on live and shared my story in my level one sponsor. And I was literally doing Plexus for maybe 2 months, 3 months. And that is because I say that so that you don't feel like, well, I don't have a story or I'm brand new and I can't share. You can, because everybody has a voice in this, and whatever your win is, big or small, somebody needs to hear that. And even if there's somebody else on your team that has like this fabulous story that you really want them to share live, I'm going to tell you the best practice that you can give yourself is to do it yourself, because you will only get more confident. Whoever just said that, Heather just said that in the chat, you're going to grow in confidence, and your own belief in yourself and in this, and in the products and in this industry as a whole is going to grow the more and more you put yourself out there. So you've probably heard a million times, like, do it scared, but it's truly true. We actually talked about this today on our book study. We're reading as a team right now, we're reading The Secret Code of Success. It's a really great book. And we were just talking about this morning, in the chapter that we're reading, it's all about, well, it's not all about it, but a part of it is about your comfort zone and how it's not necessarily like a comfort zone, but it's more of a familiar zone. Like you're going to do the things that are familiar to you. And because that feels comfortable, right? But your comfort zone doesn't necessarily mean that you are comfortable, because it really truly is painful to be in a comfort zone, right? Like you're still having the same struggles, and maybe you're still working on your finances, or you don't feel good. Like it's not comfortable. It's just familiar, and you revert to that. But when you do the thing that is not familiar, you grow. And you may fail, right? But like you learn along the way. You learn about what you can change or what you can make better. And so I was doing these events and we would just stack them. Like we just found what worked was to do a couple in the same night so that you weren't spread thin. Because like I said, I have a family and I'm a mom, first and foremost. And so, I have to get my kids fed and I like have to do all of those things that like matter to me and I want to be present for. And so I wouldn't book out events every single night of the week. I would say, okay, Thursdays, and just became known team wide, like Thursdays are going to be heavy event nights. So just be prepared, do all of your other things on the other nights of the week, maybe ask for some help for bedtime on Thursdays or whatever. Or, plan on being okay with letting your kids watch a little TV or go to bed a little later or whatever, however you need to make it work. But Thursdays, we just stacked events and we just did all of our lives and stuff together on that one night, so that we just sort of all got it in. And then it actually worked out really well, because then you can do follow-ups on Fridays after work and be able to connect with people through the weekend. So that's what we did to go Fast Start Senior Gold the very next month in August. I'm sorry, Fast Start Gold. But no, I'm sorry, Fast Start Gold in July, and then Fast Start Senior Gold in August. So like I said, it was very fast and furious, and I was still learning a lot about what we were doing. But what we were doing was working, and it was simple. It was posting, it was sharing in your stories, it was hosting events, and it was sending messages to invite people to the events and follow up in 3 ways. Like, so simple, so basic, but we were very intentional on the people that we were reaching out to, very intentional on the content that we had in our events, and very intentional in our follow-ups, because we know follow-ups are key. Like, if we never followed up from any of those events, we probably would have never had as many enrollees as we did. So then from there, I went Ruby on October 31st. I remember it was Halloween. I remember this was a huge moment for me because it was one of the first times, like, where I really had to step up my game a little bit. Cause like I said, we were just like flowing and moving, and I was just kind of like doing things and hitting the rinks without really noticing that I was like hitting the rinks, if that makes sense. Like, we were just floating, right? And so to hit Ruby, we needed to put in a little more work. I had to get a little more intentional, and I had to do a little more growing. And I just remember how happy I was on Halloween. I remember we were carving pumpkins, and we hit Ruby, and I was like crying, and I was so excited because it was the moment where I felt like, wow, like, we really did something. And it's crazy to think that it took all the way to Ruby for me to notice that. But I think it was just because we were moving so fast and just sort of doing the same thing on repeat to get there. And it was at that moment where I really had to, like, I don't know, get more intentional, be really good with my customer care, help people stay on their products and love them. And I had to really put in a little more work. So it felt so much more powerful. Like, wow, I do have the skills. I didn't just get lucky, you know, like, it didn't just like fall in my lap. Like, we had to do the things, and I can do the things, you know? And then, let's see, 5 months later, we went Senior Ruby, and then we were at Senior Ruby for a year. And this is where the growing pains really hit. Like, this is where, my main leg, the girl who started with me from the get-go, we just started growing in different directions as she was really slowing down in her business. And I was just now getting like, oh my goodness, root, like, Emerald is right there, and I can smell it and I can taste it, and it's all I want, you know? And so we were on very different paths on the way that we were working our business. And so it took a lot from me. Like, I'm a very, like, yellow personality, in the sense of like, I'm going to be loyal to you and love you till, like, you know, death do us part. And it was so hard for me to sort of say, okay, I'm okay with you being here and wanting to work this way. And I have to be okay with releasing that and not holding on to that, and letting myself do what I know I really want to do and what I know that I can do. And I had to be okay with sort of bringing on new leaders and like really diving into them, and being okay with saying like, okay, like, you are my ride or die, and I love you no matter what. But also, I know that there are so many other people on my team that need my time too, and really starting to delegate where I was going to spend my time most. And it was hard. Like, it was super hard. Like, you know, we were there for a year, and we like moved in between. There was a lot of things. And so what I really had to do, like, the shift that happened before we hit Emerald the very next year in March. So we hit Senior Ruby in March, and then we hit Emerald in March. So I'm feeling very excited about the next March that's coming, because March always seems to be a really good month on our team. But as the new year began, you know, there was a lot of time after we hit Senior Ruby to sort of go through and really muddle through a lot of different things in our business. In my business, in my own mindset too. A lot of growth happening there. But once the new year hit, I was like, okay, I have got to make changes. Like, what I'm doing right now, I'm spinning my wheels. I will say, like, we were doing a great job as far as maintaining where we were. Like, we weren't losing a lot of people in retention. Like, even though she wasn't really working. She has a very solid team. So there wasn't like a whole ton of gaps, but we just weren't growing. There was no growth. So I knew that where we wanted to go, we needed to put in a lot of work, and I needed to figure out, okay, where is it falling? Like, where is it falling apart? Is it the systems? Is it, our events weren't really working as well as they used to be. I definitely wasn't spending the time on my reading and different things that I knew that I needed to be doing. I was avoiding a lot of things that I knew that I needed to do. But it really took, like, my sponsor could tell me until she was blue in the face, like, hey, how about this? Or hey, and try to guide me. But it really just took me saying, okay, I'm ready and I'm committed to this. I'm going to be committed to making this happen, because during this time, there were several times where I had said to my team, okay, we're going to go for emeralds, and then like fail absolutely miserably, like literally no growth. So like emerald did not happen. And so I had to say, okay, I'm terrified to tell my team again that we're going to go for this, because we failed so many times. And like, now I'm starting to even doubt, like, can I do this? And so these are some of the things that I did starting at the beginning of the year, January 22, to sort of prep me for what I knew in my head was we wanted to go emerald in March, because, and this is the reason why. So this is a big part actually, because I do believe that when you really want something and there's a big enough motivator, you're going to find the way to make it happen. So if you're having a hard time with your time management, like that was a thing for me. We had moved, I was working, I was now pregnant at the time. My husband was coaching and like working insane hours, more than he ever had before. And I was just like, I have no time. Like, what do I, And so I had to overcome that. And I had to overcome just like my energy, the energy that I was putting in, being very pregnant at the time. But I knew, I was like, this baby is coming in June. And if I wanted to hit emerald, I had to figure out how to overcome these issues that I was having. And I had to be better about connecting with my team and figuring out what they needed so that I could make the changes now, 3 months before I wanted this to happen, because I knew I've watched enough trainings and did all the absorbing that you could possibly absorb without necessarily putting in all of the practice. So I was like, I've absorbed all of this and now I need to put it into play. And so I started doing like different things. I started taking on my own coaching calls instead of having my sponsor do it with me. This was huge for me, even though I had no idea where I was going to fit it in my day. Every month, at the beginning of the month, I said, and that's exactly what I told her. I said, I want to take on, and I was kind of scared to tell my sponsor because we did a lot of things together. And I was like, I want to take on my own coaching calls because I think that my team needs to see that from me. And I want to be able to hear exactly from them, like, where are the gaps so that we can make the tweaks, because I knew that momentum didn't just happen. Like it's created over like a 90-day period, and you've got to do the work at the forefront so that you can see that motion start coming into play. And so it was like playing this out in my head. Like I knew I needed to do things now. So I'm going to start doing the things now, and I'm going to watch it build and hopefully explode in March. And so that was my plan. And so I started taking on my own coaching calls, and through my coaching calls, I realized that my team was really struggling with our system. They didn't really know what to do when somebody wanted the business, or to overcome objections that people were having about cost, or being able to stay on the product and be consistent and find their results and then share. So I honed in on our systems. I sort of recreated some, not really recreate, I just used what I knew I was doing that worked and put it together in a flowing chart, like graphic, that I can share with my team so that they can start practicing it over and over. And like the idea was, you start practicing it in January and you're going to fail and you're going to, like fumble it and whatever, but you're going to learn and you're going to get better, just like you do with anything else. And so I fixed up our systems. I took on the coaching calls, and I did a lot more of my own, not just reading, but actually like journaling about what I knew, because I knew that I needed to keep my mindset strong, because I knew that there's a very good chance, like, you never know what's going to happen. And I know the way that my team works in the middle of the month, it's hard. In the middle of the month, there's a lull, there's not a lot of enrolls. There's different things that come up, like where people are pushing out subs or whatever, and you just see the points that are not moving. And so I was like, I know this is already coming up. This is a pattern in our team. And so I need to keep my mindset strong. And so I was really working on building that foundation of that resilience in my own mindset, so that I knew when the time came for us to really push for this in March, I was going to be strong mentally, so that I can still perform and do the things that I needed to do to show up for my team. And then what else did I do? Updated systems, coaching calls. I poured into a lot of trainings. I don't know if you guys lately have seen, Brittany Howard or listened to Brittany Howard's podcast, but like, I'm obsessed with it. It's so good. So definitely recommend that one. That wasn't around then, but some other books that I read at the time were Atomic Habits and 5 Levels of Leadership. Those really, really helped me. I knew that part of the reason why we were at Senior Ruby for that full year was because I had hit my leadership lid. Like, I knew that I needed to do some things, and which is why I was like, okay, I'm going to take all my coaching calls. I'm going to be more present in my threads. And I was doing simple things like sharing my IPA that I did that day, whether it was written out or we used like hashtag what I did today and sort of wrote out. And I just got very, very like religious in the sense of checking my virtual office every single day. Like, don't be afraid of that. Like, it was my number one tool, still is like number one tool, for growth in this business, because everything's there. You can see exactly who your people are. It's how you follow up. It's how you check your orders. It's how you see who's bumped up in PV this month, who's loving their products, who's went down in their PV this month. What did they take out? What are they not liking? What can we help you tweak? And it was really it just is my number one tool. So I just got really, really good about not avoiding it, especially in that middle of the month, and just going after it, and then reaching out to, hey, I would reach out to my team directly each morning. And I got so good at it where it would literally take me like 15 minutes to go through all of my morning rounds in the morning, because it was just like boom, boom, boom. And then that way I can just reach out to my team in the morning. When they woke up, they would see, whatever it was. And it was a great teaching moment for them, because now I've got some leaders on my team that do the same thing, that reach out to their, people on their team and let them know like, hey, I see this happened or whatnot. So, those are some very basic things, that I did to start getting the ball moving. But I also knew that I needed to get better at just my messaging. Like, I needed to be way more consistent in my messaging when I was going through all of that, like, head trash that, for lack of a better word, I guess, head trash of like, okay, how come this isn't working? How come we're still here? And notice the questions that I'm saying are all like very negative things, like, why isn't this not happening? Like, so I had to get better about shifting my mindset and thinking about, well, what are the possibilities, and being focused more on what's to come and less on, well, why are things not going the way that I want them to, or why are they not moving fast enough? Like, that is focusing on the wrong parts. It's focusing on the negative. And my sponsor always says, like, everything's figure outable. So like, I just kept saying that to myself, like, everything's figure outable, especially when we hit March. And I was like, oh man, this is the month I'm supposed to do it. And this is the month I'm supposed to tell everybody that we're going enrolled. And I'm terrified because the numbers don't even make sense. Like, I don't even know how we're going to do this. In January and February, we were recruiting as a team. Like, our ads were maybe 30, like between 20 and 30. And I knew that in order for us to do this, we were going to need at least 100 ads that month. And I was like, I am nervous, I am scared, but I'm just going to do what I know is my plan, and I'm going to commit to it. And so I just truly committed. I truly committed, and I said, I'm doing this. And I knew that I had told my team in the past that we were going to go for Emerald and failed miserably. And so I said, I need to prove to my team that I'm really serious this time. And so I was like, I'm going to do all that I can to bring in, like, I had my funnel really full because in January and February I was really consistent in my messaging. I was posting every day, and I was not posting all plexus, but I was providing a lot of value because remember, I was reading and I was podcasting and I was really pouring into myself. And so that took a lot of focus on doing what's important and less of the things that I like to do to avoid, like make graphics or like clean up the team page or, you know, whatever those like fun things are that you like to do that aren't the actual things that you need to do. And so I had to be super focused on my messaging and adding value to my audience so that, yes, I was doing a lot of buffering and I knew that I couldn't do buffering. There's no time for that. Like I needed to just focus, but I was doing it in a very like, gratitude was the focus. Like I am so grateful for where I am. And I know the possibilities of what is to come. So I'm just going to be super dialed in on what I want to do. And don't let the distractions get to me. Like, don't look side to side at my sidelines that are doing awesome and like, you know, ranking up and developing people and doing all this cool stuff and I was in a season of like rebuilding new leaders. And truthfully, like I wouldn't even necessarily say leaders at that time. They were like brand new business builders. So I was like having my hand in a lot of things. And I knew that it was taking up a lot of time, but I also like kind of have this mindset, and it's just kind of the way that I work and the way that we run our life, because with my husband coaching, we truly work in seasons. Like, it's like, I know this is just a season of my life where I'm going to have to say no to a few things with my kids, or, you know, like not read 15 bedtime stories and say, no, we're going to read these two right here. And then you're going to go to bed. And like, it sort of seems backwards because the whole reason why I wanted to do this is to be able to have that time with my kids. But also I knew that I needed to have that focus in this period so that I could get to there so that we could have all of that time later, if that makes sense. So it was sort of like, I am going to, I don't necessarily want to say the word sacrifice, but for lack of better word, it's not coming to my head right now, but really sort of swap out some things and just say like, nope, we're not going to do this because we're going to do this because mommy has a goal. And so it kind of like became a whole family thing. Like my kids would come check out, like when I'd be at the computer and they see the bar graph, you know, and they're like, mommy, have you hit the line? Like they knew that once we hit the line, we were going to get that plexus lexus, and that, you know, we were going to have room for this baby that was coming, because that was the whole thing. As I was driving a Ford Fusion at the time with 3 kids in the back, and we were about to have our 4th baby. And so it was like, I'm committed to getting this bigger car because we need a car anyway. And I'm not going to buy a car that's not going to be the Lexus that I'm working so hard for. So it was just very committed to, if this happens, it needs to happen in March so that we can re-rank in April and we can go get that car in June before this baby comes, because the baby was coming in June. So like when I tell you the timeline was like there, the timeline was exactly there. Although the numbers didn't make any sense. We were right around 1,200 points in February. And so I knew that we were going to have, you know, at least 500 point growth in 1 month to make Emerald happen. And so when I say the numbers didn't make sense, especially with us adding between 20 and 30 people a month, I was like, how is this happening? Like, where are all these people going to come from? I have no idea. But I said, so this was the month, this is in March. This is when Leaders Retreat trip was. And so it was also the month of the Remarkable tablet. When you add 6, you get the tablet. So I remember telling my sponsor, I was like, I feel like the only way I can really prove to my team that like, I'm really, really serious about going Emerald and that we're going to make this happen is if I earn that Remarkable before we even go to Leaders Retreat. And so I had my funnel really full because I was sending all these messages. And so I was like, it's March 9th. It's the day to go to leaders retreat. Like here, I'm adding my 6. I'm doing it. And so I added my 6 and earned it. And all my team was like, oh my gosh, she's for real. Like we're really doing this. I can't believe she's already done that. And I was like, you guys, this is really happening. So like buckle up, get your people. And it was so fun. Like we had the most fun that month. It definitely happened, but I'm going to tell you, the 28th of March, we were at 1,200. Yeah, we were at 1,200 points. So we still needed like, I don't even know how many people that is, like 60 ads or something. But remember, I said that we ended in February around 1,200. It had to have been 11. I don't think I had ever hit 1,200 points. It was like 1,100 points. So we had essentially grown by like 100 points more than we ever had. But that's because, you know, things like attrition and declines and different things like that comes up. And so I just really trained myself during that month to not think about how many more ads we had, but stay really focused on the growth that we've had. And I was having so much fun in the momentum that my team was picking up on. And really a lot of that didn't start happening until the middle of the month. And then, you know, Magic Week gets crazy. But it just really, most of the month didn't make sense. And at the time had a sideline that was going Emerald at the same time. So we sort of planned it so that everybody was sort of rowing in the same direction, like team wide, to really create that momentum. And so we were just doing a ton of events. We were sharing message examples, and we were, you know, getting on the phone with people, and just being really good about working through objections was like some of our biggest things that we were doing to make this happen. And she was like killing it. Like she was like way ahead of me as far as hitting Emerald. I think she actually hit it on the 28th. And then I didn't hit it until the very last minute on the 31st. And so it could have been really, really easy for me to look at her and be like, like she's definitely doing it. I'm not doing it, you know? And so that's why I knew that I had to be really good about mindset and staying in my lane, and have those people that you go to when you're like, I'm really scared. I don't know how this is going to happen, and have those people that are going to speak truth to you and really encourage you and tell you to do the things that you want to do. And keep those blinders on, like just do what you know it works and stay focused. And I definitely had those people, and, you know, they helped me rally and we did it. But like, that is why, you know, this community is so special, having those people that you really work well with. And if you don't have that person yet, like start checking out, like, you know, in your team page or whatnot, like who's hitting the leaderboard, who's sharing in a way that you really gravitate to, who, you know, has similar values to you that, you know, you can lean on and you can maybe go to and say like, hey, do you want to partner up? Like, let's do a little accountability. And I definitely did that with some of the other girls on my sideline, because yeah, I have my sponsor and she's amazing, but it's really nice to have somebody that is also not your sponsor that you can go to, that you can bounce ideas off of and just be truthful to you about that. So, you know, those are just some of the very basic things. And I know, I feel like I'm totally missing something, but I can leave it up to you guys if you want to ask some questions or anything.
I think this has been amazing. I'm like, this is so perfect. I love it. And I loved your story. Like I always love your story. But so like how are you doing things now with your team? Like with your basics and the flow of how you guys do things.
So we're doing a lot of the same. We're doing a lot of events. We're definitely started doing more like book studies together. So we're reading like The Secret Code of Success, but we're doing a lot of accountability groups. We've just found that our team really likes that. And it does get smaller as you go on, like some people drop off, but the mindset piece, especially toward the end of just this last year, it sort of seemed like everybody was sort of in this lull of a place and not a lot of movement was happening. And even now we're really doing some of that book study and getting like, I'm going back again to a lot of this very basic things, filling up my calendar with events. Because after having the baby in June, So we hit Emerald in March, and then we continued to re-rank all the way through July. And then since then, we actually have not. So we're working again on re-ranking and earning the trip, but also like we did Hawaii last year and it was so amazing. And I'm like, I just really want to have somebody on my team there with me. So like, that's my number one focus now, is rising up some of the leaders that I have to be, you know, even stronger leaders so that they can also earn this trip with me. So we're just doing a lot of those very same things, like book studies, sharing, like I am sharing in my thread every single day, my IPA sheet. Like, it's super scary to commit to that because like, what if you don't like fill it out one day? Whatever. They need to see that you are human and that you are going to at least do the important parts of your business each day if you are committed to that. Like, we have goals and we're all in. And so I knew that like once we hit Emerald and once we earned the Plexus Lexus, like I knew that my husband was going to be very comfortable with me saying I'm not going back to teaching this year. So I'm not teaching. I'm working this business at home with all of my kids. And you know, my husband's still coaching, but the cool thing is like now we have flexibility, and like when he has to move again, like I don't have to transfer credentials and we can up and go with him. We don't have to wait until the end of the school year if we don't want to. It's just allowed us so much flexibility. And that's all I ever wanted. Like, that's all I ever wanted from this. And just to be able to work somewhere where it's fun. I get to do this with my friends and I'm treated really well and I'm paid well, because we know that doesn't always happen in the teaching industry. And so I am just doing what I know works. And that's events, using three-way messages, and reaching out really boldly about the business. That's always sort of been like my go-to. If you follow me at all on Instagram, I mostly post about the business. I don't post a lot about the products because I just enjoy, like, I know that once somebody gets on the products, I can help them to love the products. So I want them to, because our products are amazing. So it's like, that's simple to do. But I know that, you know, a lot of people really need this financially, and won't always feel like it's something for them if I'm, you know, if I'm not showing that just an average person like me can do this, you know? So I really wanted to like be that somebody that can inspire another working mom or stay-at-home mom or whatever, like whatever it is that you do and that you love, that you can do this too, as long as you have a big enough why and you're not afraid to do the work. Like, you can make whatever happen in this industry that you want, because network marketing is like the jam. Like, this is like the best opportunity for anyone and everyone, that you can truly make your life what you want. If you're willing to, you know, do the work and be coachable, and just have that why. Like, you've got to have that drive. And so if I didn't have that super massive drive of like, this baby's coming and I literally don't have a seat in my car for this baby, then I probably would have let March go by without working as hard as I did. But I wasn't afraid to do the work because I knew that this is what we wanted for our life. And I was going to prove that I could do it and that we could make it happen, even if my main leg wasn't working. And so what that meant was we brought on a lot of new people that wanted to get their products paid for. And so after we hit Emerald, in the next couple months, a couple of those girls I developed into Fast Start Golds. Now one is a senior gold, getting close to Ruby. And so just really working on developing new leaders is what I'm doing, and reaching out about the business. And just looking for that growth again to happen, and keeping that momentum going. Well, really, it's not going right now, but it will be going because we know that when you do the work now, it will happen later. And so I'm just feel so confident in the fact that even if you feel like something's not working for you in this moment, sometimes that's the best thing, because sometimes that just means that, you know, You've just got to get a little more people rowing in the same direction and catching that vision, and you know, they'll be right there with you. So
I love that. And I love watching your Instagram. And today, tell them what you shared about today.
in my stories,
Yes, your thing, your
the
planner,
the what?
your planner.
Oh,
Tell them
the
about your
planner.
planner.
Oh, yes, that's right. You commented on it. Okay, I got this planner. So my life is crazy, you guys, and I just knew that I needed a different planner. I used, like, as a teacher, just had like a, you know, planner and just like put the things down, or you would have like your teacher planner calendar. And I like where you plan out like your teaching day, right? Like those kinds of things. And so I always just had a regular calendar for like my home stuff, you know, like Plexus related, put people's names in and like put our events and different things. And then it hit me not too long ago, was like, I need like an actual like timed planner like I had for teaching, where I'm like, okay, at 10 o'clock we do recess, and you know, whatever, like the actual day. So I bought this on Amazon. It's called the Fruitful Time Blocking Calendar. And I just do like I just like I used to do for teaching. I write in it what's happening at what time of the day, each day, and I leave it out on my kitchen table. And so each day, like, it's there and I know what's happening for the day. And so it just has helped me to not only like remember what time to pick up my kids and things like that, but also like, you know, get my workout in. Like I get to create my day now. I've never been able to create my day. So like I'm going to put time in for me to get in my exercise for the day, because it makes me feel really good and it's really good for my mindset. And I know that's what I need in this time in my business right now. And put in things like my IPA. And when am I going to read my book for my book study? And I just leave it out like I used to do teaching, and just sits on my kitchen table, and I just look at, okay, what's coming up for the next part of my day. It's so helpful. It has like changed. It has changed the way that I feel about my day. I no longer walk around like, you know, that feeling, and you're like, oh, I haven't done my IPA yet. Like I got to send this message, but you're like in the middle of like 4 other things at the same time. Like I don't work like that anymore. It has brought so much peace to my day to day. I don't ever feel like I need to rush my kid putting on her shoes because I've got to send this message. Like, no, she's not going to let me rush her anyway. She's 2. So just like, let that happen. And then just know, you know, at, you know, 5 o'clock or whatever, like that's my IPA time and I'll get to it then. So I just highly recommend, if you haven't like taken some time to really evaluate how you want your day to look, and take ownership of that time, like something like this could be really helpful to you. I always sort of avoided it because I felt like, well, if I get to control my day, like, then why do I need to like time block things? Like, I just want to do what I want to do, you know? But I just found that that things don't happen if you don't plan for it to happen. So
Well, I had you share that because I'm a huge time blocker, and like I've got mine right here. It sits beside me on the couch, and on Sundays I go through and like fill out my stuff, and I was like, oh yay, she can validate me tonight.
Yeah. And it's really good for like my family too, so that my husband knows, you know, what days I have calls or, you know, whatever. Like it's just really helpful to know ahead of time for the family what's going on. Yeah, it's just great. So like, even though I'm not teaching anymore, I still feel like I'm still doing my Sunday prep. But we talk about it too, like on Sundays, like, hey, what's coming up this week? And you know, then I don't like miss things like dance classes, which I was doing when I didn't use this before. So actually when I missed my daughter's first dance class a couple weeks ago, I was like, okay, I got to take this seriously, and I need to start planning out my day, because I can't remember things that I tell myself I'm going to remember. So yeah.
All right, Allie asked what you used to teach.
I used to teach 4th grade mostly. So the little ones. Yeah.
Well, our team is full of like, we have like medical professionals, we have like dental hygienists, and we have a ton of teachers on here. And then we've got like several stay-at-home moms. So it's like a little mix, but I knew that they would really, really resonate with your story.
Yeah.
And you're our basic approach is almost identical to yours. So I knew that they would relate to your story really, really well. So if nobody has any other questions, we'll let her go. But we appreciate you so much. And I love your story, and we appreciate you for hopping on and sharing with us.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me on. And if anything else comes up, like you can always just message me and I'm happy to answer any other questions. But
Yes,
yeah, we're still
we
working for
appreciate
that
it.
trip this year. So we'll be there.
Yes,
Dedicated
we've
to
got
that.
several. Yeah, we've got several on here working for
Oh, good.
that trip.
I'll be right
Yes,
alongside you.
yes. And you guys can follow her on Instagram. She's Lady Almond with the little underscores. I think I shared it with you guys. All right. Well, that is, thank you.
Thanks so much. Have a
All
good
right.
night.
Bye. Bye, guys.